Have you ever wondered how a cheap $15 point and shoot camera like this one would hold up against a $2,100 professional SLR setup like this? Well, by the end of this video, you will have the answer to that question. And if you watch till the very end, I actually do a direct comparison of images shot side by side. All the way from 1992, this is the Zoom 70R by Pentax. I got this one from my uncle and I just love him. He's an amazing guy all around, but also because he's the type of guy that would keep the camera operating manual from a camera that he bought 30 years ago. I don't have a single camera manual from any of my cameras. So this is a fairly compact and portable camera. It has a 35 to 70 millimeter lens, including macro. And in my experience, it actually takes really contrasty and sharp images. I'm actually quite impressed with it. And this model is actually the date version. So it has a little where you can print the little date on the film itself. And I was really pumped about that because I think that's I just think that's a cool feature to kind of go back and look and see the date, and it kind of gives the film a neat look too. That is until I tried using it. And luckily I have the operating manual. However, apparently Pentax did not think we were gonna be around in 2024. Because if I look here, it says, if you purchase the date model, read this section. The date model records dates up to the year 2019 on pictures.
What?
Why 2019? Like what? Anyway, it's don't spend more money on the date version of this camera because you can't use it in 2024. So I'm a little bummed about that, but overall, the camera's pretty cool. So when I was growing up, these point and shoot cameras were everywhere. Everybody had them. These and like the Polaroid style cameras. Those were the two cameras at family events, birthdays, and things like that. These are mostly the cameras that were used. Kind of like the iPhone, Android phone camera of today. But honestly, if you were a serious photographer back then, you wouldn't have considered this a serious creative tool. At least that's what I remember. I remember these being referred to as PHD cameras or push here dummy. Now, fast forward to today, these cameras have made a really big comeback. And I think it's mostly because they're just really fun to use and they have that kind of nostalgic, kind of retro feel and look to the images. All right, first things first, we're gonna go over some of the bad things about this point and shoot camera. As far as point and shoot compactness goes, this is not a super compact point and shoot camera by any means. It's just the one that I have, and that's why I'm comparing it. The next thing I don't like is you don't have a lot of creative control. You can't set your shutter speeds, ISO, f-stop, or anything like that. It's pretty much fully auto. So if you want something that gives you more control, this is not gonna be for you. And like I said, the lens, to me, it seems sharp and contrasty, but it's still not a professional grade optic. So you're not gonna get the same quality you are from, say, a professional line of lens or an SLR lens out of one of these. It is definitely a plastic camera. Like there's no doubt about it. If you drop this from a decent distance, it would probably shatter. Then the last negative I have about this is that it does require batteries. Without batteries, you're not gonna do anything with it. Now onto the good stuff about the Pentax. This camera is just really fun. Like it's fun. Like I can't believe how much I actually enjoy shooting with it, quite frankly. It's an easy to use camera that will give you a really cool look. It will capture memories. It will just, you can throw this in a bag anytime, bring it with you, no fuss, and that's what it was designed for, and it does a great job of that. You can also get that old school kind of retro fashion-y flash look. It will just blast the flash and give you that on-camera flash look. It has some other cool features like multi-exposure, daylight synchro, slow shutter speed flash off, backlight compensation, bulb, a macro, and multi-exposure. Like you can take multi-exposures. I remember I brought this camera to my mother's house for Thanksgiving either last year or the year before. And I had a bunch of black and white film with me. And I had this, my Polaroid, and some other things. And my two nephews, they're pretty young, like 4 and 7 or 8. And I just loaded a bunch of film up Polaroid and gave them these cameras. And they went around and had so much fun that it was really cool to see them enjoy this type of film camera because they fully realized they couldn't see the picture at first. And that, I explained to them what was going on. and they shot picture after picture after picture. They actually got some really cool stuff, and it was fun to watch them. So it's cool that you can hand this to a young person with film in it and just watch them kind of get curious and light up and not really be concerned about the camera so much. And so I just thought that was a really neat experience, and it opened up my eyes a little bit to the possibilities with something like this. Now, before we get into the competition, the Canon EOS 1V, smash that subscribe button if you want to become a better photographer or learn more about photography. I make a video like this every week, and you're not going to want to miss it. All right, now on to the Canon EOS 1V, the legend. This camera does represent the pinnacle of Canon's technology as far as film camera goes. And it's a professional grade SLR that was really designed for a working professional that absolutely demanded the utmost performance and reliability in their gear. But there are some bad things about this camera. I would say first and foremost, this is a big, heavy camera. It's a commitment to take this out and shoot it. It's not light, it's not easy to pack per se, but this thing is built like a tank, but it's heavy. I paired it with the 24 to 70 millimeter. This is the 2.8L version 2 lens. I did that because this is a very professional lens, and it's in that same focal length as the 35 to 70. So when I get into those images later, I was able to shoot the same focal length, same subject, same film, everything with both cameras. We'll take a look at those a little later. Another downfall is, again, like so many of these cameras in the 90s, 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, and all of the cameras today, it relies on batteries. Another shortcoming of this camera is kind of the setup and layout of some of these dials and menus. They're a little bit cumbersome. Sometimes when you're shooting, you can't intuitively change things. Maybe if you use the camera enough, you might be able to, but for me, I often have to take my eye away from the camera to make changes in the settings, which potentially could make me miss a shot. All right, so now on to the good stuff about the Canon EOS 1V. This camera has just about every bell and whistle and accessory made for it that you can imagine, including this one has the little date on the back, so you can imprint the date on the film, but mine doesn't work. So no matter what I do, I can't put the date on my film. The first thing you will notice about this camera when you do hold it or pick one up is the build quality and the heft. This thing is built solid. If I dropped this, I don't think it would break. It might ding. I did at one time crack the base plate of this, but it was easily replaceable. So these cameras they're solid. They're gonna last. You can get them fixed, you can get them overhauled. It was a professional level camera. And it's also very well balanced in hand. Unlike the very small mirrorless ones of today, this one you can grip it, it feels great. This camera was definitely designed for professional, heavy, everyday use. No doubt about that. It sports a 45-point autofocus system. One of the features I love about the autofocus system is you can pin the spot metering to the actual autofocus point. I do love that feature, but the autofocus is very fast, very good. I would say not quite on par with today's digital cameras by any means, or the mirrorless, especially the mirrorless and the autofocus, but it is very good. And as far as film cameras go, it's probably one of the best, if not the best, for tracking fast moving objects. It really was made to deliver tack sharp images every time. The biggest benefit, and probably the reason I bought this camera body, is the lineup of lenses. The EF, specifically the EF lenses. Like I said, this one's the 24 to 70. And the reason I bought this camera is because I already had every L series EF lens that I'd ever wanted to buy. I had from professionally shooting with digital EF mount cameras over the years. So it was a no-brainer to buy the best film body. There's not much you can't do with this camera. Okay, so before we get into the direct image comparisons from the two cameras, let's just quickly go over why you might choose one camera over the other. So I would really say that both of these cameras have their place, and it really depends on what type of photographer you are. If you want to get really involved and have lots of control, you're gonna wanna step up to something that gives you more control. I mean, if you're looking for something just simple to throw in a bag, take with you, no fuss, but still you want to shoot film to get that kind of 90s or 80s, 90s retro look, this is gonna be your camera, like hands down. Like I said, the EOS 1V is gonna be a little bit more of a commitment. So without further ado, here are some of the comparison images I took when I went out for that walk. I did try to frame them up with the same focal length as much as I could. And if you want to see some behind the scenes of shooting with this Canon EOS 1V, shooting portraits on Portra 400 and off-camera flash, watch this video here.